Good morning, good morning, good morning. We are back for another episode of the Buckeye Roast. It's your boy Ron James here with my guy QP Ski. Q, how you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm up. I'm here. I'm active. That's all you can ask for.
It's honestly, well, first let me fix my mic. It's on surprise that we're here today because I saw the comments from yesterday's show and they said this show was no longer.
Wow. Hold on, before you go to that, a lot of times I'll forget Ron's mic and hear it. It'll be off. It'll be the wrong mic. This is the first I've actually experienced the change of
Could you
me
hear it?
talking. I just heard. I was like, wow, how I have
Wow.
not picked that up all this time is a miracle.
You see how confused I am when I end the show and I realize my mic's not on and I'm like, you didn't hear that?
Bro, I really do be tired. Oh my God. As you were saying, my bad.
As I was saying, it's a surprise that we're here today because the people listening to the Buckeye Roast said that I can't hide my hate for you any longer and this show's coming to an end. And they said that we actually got that comment after sitting in StreamYard for 5 hours after the show yesterday, bullshitting yesterday, and we have people commenting on the show saying these two fucking hate each other. This show's not gonna last.
Well, I am so tired of Ron berating me during show, pre-show, after show. So, but when super chats are back, it'll make me feel a lot better if you just throw in $1 in there for me. For every dollar, I'll do another show. So
Absolutely. And then we got started a minute late. I thought we were gonna have to cancel the show. I couldn't find my hat this morning, and no hat, no show.
speaking of which, the red hat army was out yesterday defending Ron in the comments.
We
The
appreciate
Red
you.
Hat.
Q's Angels were missing yesterday. We call
Got to get a better name than that.
we gotta find a new name for the people that don't watch the show live, but then watch the rerun and then defend Q the entire time they're watching the episode. I call them Q's Angels. Q doesn't like that name. I like Ron's Army. That's not bad.
It better be 3 models.
Charlie, take us to the first subject.
Oh, man. Well, first of all, I appreciate everyone who comments after the show. Those were a lot of fun. So keep it up. Keep making fun of us, making jokes and all. It's good fun, and we do love reading them. Let me get some house cleaning out the way. First of all, shout out to Dan. He was the first one in the chat today. So shout out to Dan. And Doug was right behind him, and Posh is in here. So good morning, everybody. I see Travis, everybody who's up this morning with us. Appreciate y'all joining. Everybody, make sure you like that video. Ron's getting a tweet out, so if you do see it on Twitter, go ahead and and retweet that so people can see it. Especially, it's also too, if anybody who's not in the Buckeye community on Twitter, I mean, it's massive. It's what, 6K Ohio
7.4 thousand.
Yeah, 7.4. So if you want more Ohio State, you want more people who love Ohio State, get in that community. And if you are in that community, Ron posts a video every time we go live. So throw a like on that and a retweet on that so more people can see it. We're trying to work to get our subs up and things like that. But appreciate everybody joining us, man. And don't forget podcasts. We've had some people go out there and rate the videos, and it's starting to grow. So we really appreciate that. That's growing. All that good stuff. And that's where we're at. That's all the house clean I got. Ryan, got anything before we get into it?
Nope. I mean, the least surprising thing ever, they talked to the wide receivers and cornerbacks on Friday. One guess who the most popular name was among these interviews. I started writing the show, and I'm like, I get through all the bullets, and I'm like, everybody seems to be talking about the same guy. Any guesses?
Would it happen to be a dude from South Florida who might be like 6'4", 215, might look like what's the dude from, I always forget the dude from Baylor. What's his name?
Sean Oakman.
Yeah, he's gonna look like Sean Oakman next season. Sean Oakman's twin. Might that be the guy?
That is the guy indeed. Jeremiah Smith was the talk of the town during wide receiver and cornerback interviews. So we are going to start with Jeremiah Smith himself. Said he's trying to keep the main thing, and tune out the hype. How difficult do you think it is for a freshman with that much hype coming in with the number 1 overall label on him? I mean, it's been a while since we had the top player in the class be a part of the Buckeyes. Come in with that much hype, a guy that is expected to play almost immediately in that room. How difficult do you think that is for a kid that's 18 years old to be thrust into stardom in Columbus immediately?
I'll say it in two parts. I think it's very difficult coming out of high school. You have all the hype, you're the big time guy. People are comparing you to Julio Jones and massive pros. Like it's almost at the point where it's like if you're a first rounder after 3 years and you're in the 20s, it's a disappointment, which sounds crazy. But the hype around Jeremiah Smith is he's already a top 10 pick walking into Columbus. So it's a immense amount of pressure. And it's on Ohio State to make it easier for him. But also the second part of that is this is Ohio State. He's just the next guy to walk in and have that first round label coming out of high school. I mean, you think Emeka's still here. He was the number one overall receiver in his class. We've had plenty of guys like that. It's almost I guess a fraternity of guys who basically have come in 5-star, all the pressure in the world and have dealt with it and left first round picks. So it is a lot of pressure, but also you do have that backing of you look around the room and it's top 100 players all over the board and their towns they left and all had a tremendous pressure going to Ohio State. So I feel like it's a community of them, which makes it a little bit easier to deal with that pressure.
Yeah, having the South Florida Express family around definitely probably has to help there. And then given the attention that has been on that wide receiver room for years, I'm sure Brian Hartline is no stranger to managing a celebrity room, having had Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave, Jackson Smith and Jigba, and the names go on in that room. So I doubt it's anything new, and I'm sure the Buckeyes are going to find ways to get him acclimated. He did have a clip that went quite viral on Friday in regards to the drama around National Signing Day, and he dressed the rumors around a potential flip. I don't have the clip here with me today, but he did say he's always been a Buckeye and it was never really a doubt. Do you believe him?
Yeah, for the most part. I mean, we do know that college football has just become a part of where you're going to play and things like that. And NIL and stuff like that has weighed in now heavily with people willing to throw money at you and try to get you to other places. So I'm sure somebody was like, "Hey, Jeremiah, I'm gonna give you something to think about. How many zeros is on this check?" And that may have happened, but Jeremiah Smith has always seemed like a no-nonsense guy. I mean, we talked about he wanted to commit his sophomore year to Ohio State and has gone wire to wire. So a lot of credit to him. I do believe this is where he always wanted to be. He wanted to play for Hartline. They had that close connection, and you heard it from the recruiting services that anywhere Hartline goes, Jeremiah Smith was going. So I do believe he was never truly going to flip, but I'm sure some people were trying to leverage some resources to give him something to think about. And as you should hear out your choices before you make your final decision. So I don't see any problem with it.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there. I don't think it was really ever in doubt, but I definitely think some teams gave him something to think about. But like he said, he was always a Buckeye, and it's go Bucks, and he's here now. And it's honestly, we've been following this recruitment almost as long as we've known each other. Like I met Q right around the time that I learned the name Jeremiah Smith. So to see the fact that since we've met, how much has been built around us as far as shows, everything else that's going on. And now to see this kid finally hit the field and that we're going to be able to talk about someone that we've been watching since they were a junior in high school, take the field in a Buckeye uniform and really make his imprint on this program is super exciting. And I mean, we're 2 weeks away.
Yeah, it's coming very good. It doesn't feel like football is right around the corner. Funny enough, one of my friends here is he's a big Kentucky fan, and we were just talking about like how fun it is to be out and about early in Scottsdale on a Saturday. Really, it's morning for us. Games will start around 9 a.m. and just like the vibe of just daytime and being out and having a good time. And it's like, dang, that's actually right around the corner. I really can't wait because last football season I didn't really know anybody until the very end of the season. So.
Yeah, you moved in the middle of football season last year, so you weren't really outside as much. But man, by the end of the season, you knew where all the Buckeye bars were, the college football spots were, and you just said it to me. I didn't even register. You're up at 9 a.m. How is that experience out on the West Coast?
Well, it's weird, but I like it because sports are very early here. So, like Ohio State game ends, like that's almost your night, basically. It's like 11, 12, like some of the late night owls can really go out. But here, Ohio State a lot of times plays at noon because big noon kickoff. So they play at noon. So here the game's over at noon. So it's like, oh man, I'm up, I'm juiced. We have a if you've ever been
Buzzed.
yeah, we buzzed too. We got a big Ohio State bar. There's actually a couple of them, but the biggest one is Bottle Blonde here, which looks like absolute paradise. I remember Anna was talking about it before I went, and it's a great place to watch college football. So it's cool, man. I love it. I love that it happens early. It does sometimes suck to wake up at 9 for Ohio State versus 1AA West, but man, I enjoy it.
9? I mean, you get to sleep in on Saturdays, right?
Yeah, yeah.
That's a late start for you.
Yeah, very as of right now, it is.
When you're waking up at 4 a.m., 9, that's like lunch.
But, the crazy thing is I watch a lot of soccer. I follow Premier League, and Manchester United is my squad. And at home, they used to play at like 5 in the morning, 6 in the morning, 7 in the morning. So out here, it's like if I want to watch them when they play early, I don't even go to bed. Stay up and watch them.
Just stay up late. It's a late watch. It's like me trying to watch UFC and boxing pay-per-views on the East Coast. I'm like, I'm not gonna make it. I'm gonna fall asleep. I'm too old for this.
Nah, it's fun, man. Because even the late night sports, they'll end, and then we got 4 hours to be out before bars close. So it's a good time. I can't complain.
Back to the Buckeyes, Jeremiah Smith continued in his interview and talked about Will Howard, who also seemed to be a popular name in the interviews, and said that he's seen Will take more command of the offense, and also taking a big jump since the spring, talking his shit on the field. Is that reassuring to hear that, again, more and more people reinforcing what we've been hearing, that Will has taken a step from the spring?
Yeah, especially hearing that in particular. So we all know we've talked about it, the competitive edge that we felt from the quarterback room in Kyle last year. And I remember preseason we talked about, do you want Kyle or Devin? And I said, hey, I think Devin runs a little more hot. I think he talks shit, things like that, and that's what this team needs. And it feels like Will Howard, with his experience, has come in and sort of adapted to that. And you're hearing that all across the team, and we like a team with attitude. We're hearing about the DB room, wide receiver room this year with the SFE guys and different guys who've entered the room now. They're talking shit. There's a lot of competitive nature, and Will Howard is buying right into that and showing that. And maybe he did at Kansas State. I didn't watch him, so he could have been out there talking crazy to Texas. If I beat him, I would have. But definitely, I like it hearing that, especially from the wide receivers, because they're talking. So if they're like, "Hey, Will is one of us," he talking that shit.
One of us, one of us. Yeah, man. It feels like the energy around this team is completely different than last year. Last year, we talked on the show a ton about the team taking on the identity of the quarterback and the head coach. And it felt like Ryan Day and Kyle McCord were lacking juice last year. I mean, for lack of a better word, the team didn't have that type of energy. And we even saw after the Notre Dame game when Ryan Day flips out on Lou Holtz. It's like, yeah, this is kind of tough, but like, how tough is yelling at an old man? You know what I mean? Like, I want to see that shit talking energy where, we see the little squabbles at midfield before the games, where we see guys screaming across the sidelines, talking shit to the other teams. And I feel like that's a new energy that's coming to this team. And I feel like between Kyle and Devin in that quarterback room, the way that the corners talk, the way that the wide receivers talk, there is going to be a new type of confidence and energy around this team that I feel like we didn't have last year.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm still not mad at Dave for calling out Lou Holtz, especially what he called them out for. You were soft. That's the reason you lost to Georgia. Yeah, okay. So I'm not mad at it, but we've talked about it for many seasons now. Everybody's like, we want that Georgia Ryan Day. We want that Clemson Ryan Day. And we get it in little bits. And it's starting to feel like the team is taking on the personality, and Ryan Day is moving his personality into that mode of like, this is no nonsense. We're going out here. And I remember hearing Philly Brown talk about it with Urban. It's like we come out here like we're the show. Like we're dogs because Urban's a dog and he's showing it. And I think that is the last step Ryan Day has to go to really be one of those coaches. You talk about maybe the best coach in college football. We talk about Kirby a lot, and we hear his pregame speeches and his halftime speech and like that. And I think that is just the last chip of Ryan Day to not just do it because we know he can do it, but be consistent. And it sounds like if a lot of guys around the team is doing it, that's because Ryan Day is okay with it. He's okay with it getting a little chippy. He talked about his press conference on offensive line, as long as guys aren't coming off the sideline. Like, he's okay with the team fight a little bit. And we've heard that early in Ryan Day's tenure, and it felt like it went to sleep for a little bit. So I'm hoping it's back.
He has to be looking at this opportunity like, this is my chance to vault to the top of college football as far as coaching. Saban's gone. Kirby's Kirby. But, I mean, you look at winning percentage. Ryan Day has the highest winning percentage in college football. If he rattles off an undefeated season and then adds championship hardware to his resume, he instantly goes from Ryan Day, the guy that's on the hot seat that, Florida fans are talking about. Maybe we could get Ryan Day if he gets fired up at Ohio State if they lose to Michigan again, to, is Ryan Day the best coach in college football? I feel like he has that much on the line this year with his winning percentage, the backing that he has from the NIL collectives at Ohio State, and the expectations are sky high for him. If he's able to handle those and overcome his demons against the team up north, who's to say that Ryan Day is not in the conversation for one of the top coaches in college football? And he already is, but I feel like that would absolutely cement him.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about guys around the nation, but the only guy that really has maybe a little bit on Ryan Day is maybe Kirby right now, just because he has that ring and that back-to-back. He's the only guy that's like, you could say he's probably better than Ryan Day at this point.
You're going to make me do this?
I can't go. I know Kirby lost a lot.
Say the guy's name. I don't want to have to give him credit. I figured you'd rattle off the name and you forgot him, so I'm going to have to give him his flowers. As sick as it makes me, Dabo Swinney, you have to put him ahead of Ryan Day.
I don't even think about Dabo anymore.
2 championships, like, you can't ignore him, bro. You got to give him his flowers.
But also, I mean, he does have the rings, but Ryan Day has already shown that he can beat Dabo, and really, as of now, has ended his program. So we don't look when they match up. It's like Ryan Day's chasing Dabo. I mean, he does have the rings, but we don't look at it like that. Kirby is a guy where it's like, okay, he's chasing a little bit, but everybody else around, Sark, Dan Lanning, he's not chasing those guys. He's probably above them, or they're all in the same vein. So it's really Kirby with those 2 rings is the only one that you can say, okay, he's a better coach right now, and I would probably take him to start. But Ryan Day can end it because he's already showed he could beat Kirby. If you execute games and not have guys falling down and, martyrs go out, you probably win that game. And there's no excuses, but Jim Harbaugh's gone. Kirby's probably the last guy on that he has to prove something to that's out in college football as far as coaches go.
Shout out to our guys from the Fans Edge, Mike and Cam. So we're going to put it on the record that Dabo's done according to Q.
I think
that's on the record, right?
On the record. I don't fear Dabo. Now, do I think they're going to lose the Miami year out? No. But do I see us in a playoff game? It's like, oh no, we're playing Clemson. Like, no. I'm like, Ryan Day got this, bro. We good. We'll be in the next round.
Sounds good. Back to the player interviews. BI also talked to the media again, emphasized Will Howard's command of the huddle has been on a different level. What do you think they mean by that in my Drewski voice? Because you keep hearing command of the huddle, command of the huddle. What do you think that switch was that flipped, that Will feels so comfortable and that the leadership is starting to show and guys are taking notice?
I think you alluded to it a lot yesterday that Will Howard has done everything the coaches have asked him to do, and that earns the respect of your teammate. Will Howard's a new guy here. He comes in. It's a competitive, talented quarterback room, and he's done everything so far to his power to earn guys' respect. And I think it's that guys are respecting him around, and if he says something, they're like, okay, let's roll with it. So I just think they all find themselves on equal footing. If this is not a guy who played at Kansas State, now he's trying to level up and play good ball and better ball at Ohio State. This is a guy that's one of us. So that's, I think, the feeling that the wide receivers and the team has around Will Howard currently.
Some of the things that we've been hearing, too, about Will Howard and his comfortability with the team is that he was a little hesitant to run the ball during spring practices. And people were wondering, are you coming to Ohio State to show that you're not just a runner, that you can throw the ball and you're trying to show a different skill set that you not necessarily got a chance to show at Kansas State? But all reports coming out of camp are that Will has been more than willing to use his legs at camp, and that's kind of settled him in here at Ohio State because he's able to show some of the things that he does best as far as his decision making and his decision in run lanes during the read option plays, and then just being comfortable seeing the success on his legs, also opening things up and really confusing the defense. And I feel like that has allowed him to be more comfortable in the huddle, starting to use his legs here more at Ohio State as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say I wouldn't mind him necessarily not using his legs early in the spring because that was the part of his game that he needed to develop most. When we've gone down the stats, looked at him as a passer, and we said, okay, there's some stuff you got to clean up here. So it's like, yeah, and it's out of competitive periods, and it's like this is something that I really need to work on. I don't mind him not running because we know he can do that. He's not gonna get slower. I don't know if he's Noah Lyles down the field like the Ohio State clock will tell you, but we know that's a weapon he's always going to have, and it's not going anywhere.
Absolutely. And Ryan Day talked about that sort of development with guys that are able to move with their legs and are able to make things happen outside of the pocket, that when Justin Fields first got here, that they had to make rules during 7-on-7, like you're not allowed to scramble, like no scramble, stand in the pocket, deliver a strike, and work on your passing and your progressions while you're in these drills where you can't get hit. And when the bullets start to fly, use your legs, but you have to get comfortable doing those types of things. And I feel like Ryan Day has been able to work on those things with Will Howard, and it seems to be playing into his confidence with the team.
Yeah, I mean, I continue to want to hear. I like Will Howard. You know, they're saying he's command. He got command. They're saying he's getting comfortable. He's talking trash. Like, just continue to progress in your game. As far as Ryan Day, that's stuff I want to hear Will Howard's doing. He's getting efficient with his passes. He's not turning the ball over. He's starting to hit the deep shot. Like, these are the things I'm going to be looking for going down the stretch into camp. But this is still a developmental time where he's trying to win the job. Devin's trying to win the job. And these guys are still got to, take some risk, go out there and play good ball. So these are the things I'm looking forward to. But I think we've heard really good things about Will Howard so far.
I want to continue with what BI had to say, but the couple things before we keep going.
Yeah, I go call it the show. Be like, yo, can I get my lines out?
I want to continue with what BI had to say, but before we get there, can we get an OH in the chat? Get this chat moving this morning. I see 135 people in here. We appreciate all of you guys tuning in. Drop a like on the video if you're listening on Twitter. Go ahead and retweet the video. If you come across the video in the community today, go ahead and throw a like on that or retweet. We appreciate all the support. But Q, music to my ears when I was listening to these interviews. We got a guarantee from Brandon Inniss this year that we will see a punt return for a touchdown. We didn't see a single one of those during the tenure of Thou Who Shall Not Be Named. We don't even talk about that guy on the program anymore now that he's fired, so we're not even going to bring him up. Did not score a single punt return touchdown. Is this the year that we end the drought? What is it at now? 10 years? It's almost a decade. Yeah, 2014 was the last punt return. Do we break the decade-long drought of a punt return at Ohio State, and is Brandon Inniss the guy to do it?
I do think we break the drought. I mean, it has to end eventually, and we don't have a very strong schedule, so I feel like there's a lot of times we get out athlete people in these first couple of games and maybe get one. As far as Brandon Inniss, I love the guarantee. I love the confidence. I don't know if he is returning punch yet. That has not been said that he's the guy. But like I said, I feel like there's a lot of guys on this team that can be dynamic, especially guys who aren't playing as much or don't have big roles. I mean, BI, we've heard a lot. I heard that coming out of camp recently, he's been the second best receiver at camp. Now that puts a lot more importance of, man, I don't know if you need to be returning punts, man. Let's bubble wrap him and let's get ready for the season. We got 10 receivers all in the top 100 that can run 22, 23 miles an hour that can go. So I'm hoping we get one, but I would love to see Brandon Inniss get an opportunity to do it. He's got the confidence. Let's see if he can do it.
Agreed. I think if anyone can do it, it's BI, especially with his shiftiness. We talk about this all the time. I'm not necessarily sure that straight line speed is exactly what you're looking for on punt return. You usually have to make a guy miss early, and you want someone that's shifty. And I feel like if Brandon Inniss is able to see the blocking and able to make a guy miss early, there's no question that he'll be able to take one back this year. So hopefully, especially with this defense, we should be getting a lot of punt return opportunities with the expectations that we have for this defense. So hopefully they're forcing teams off the field and BI gets plenty of opportunities at that. He also had one final note that I wanted to throw out to you. You said Denzel has the best technique of any corner that he went against. How confident are you in this secondary coming into this year? Because I mean, it's later in the show notes. We're going to be talking about Jordan Hancock, but it feels like as much as praise as we give this secondary, we can't give it enough. Like, I'm thinking about Jordan Hancock, Denzel Burke, and Davison Igbinosun, 3 guys that could be on NFL rosters right now, all coming back to this room. Could we see a borderline NFL secondary out there playing on Saturdays?
I mean, I think it is an NFL secondary. I think all these guys will play on Sundays. Denzel Burke, again, he should have the best technique because he's the trendsetter. He's a guy. He started. How many years have we had a 4-year starter at corner that we also look at as like, dang, he's going to be a first or second rounder? We've had a lot of guys start a lot of years, but we don't necessarily look at them as pro prospects. And you looked at Denzel Burke, and he probably would have been a second rounder last year, maybe third rounder, somewhere in there, but. He's the trendsetter. He's the guy who leads. He took the I remember Chris and Seaball had a conversation with Denzel Burke a couple years ago. And he's like, BIA bringing it back. That's on me. Last season wasn't good enough, and I'm gonna do it. And he honored that last season. That was his word to us. So yeah, we appreciated Denzel Burke, but yeah, so he said it, so I believe it. He's got to be the prototype, and just this cornerback room where it's at. This is the prototype of rooms that you want across all positions across the country. Everybody wants what this cornerback room has. You have established guys with experience who played years. They're doing it at a high level, and they're good pro prospects. You have guys right behind them, Jermaine Matthews, Calvin Simpson-Hunt, Aaron Scott, Lorenzo Styles, who it may be, that are chomping at the bit and very talented. And then you have the young guys just coming in again with Aaron Stott and Bryce West of like, these are young, talented guys who are going to be able to learn from the guys who are doing it at a high level right now. So that is where you want every room in college football.
It feels like this roster has officially hit the point where they are so loaded depth-wise that they can't screw up the rotations. Like, we have enough depth that, like, no one's going to be watching the game like, why the fuck is that guy on the field? Like, we have officially reached a point where almost there's one position group, and we know that guy doesn't recruit, Justin Fry. But the rest of the team, it seems like for the most part that we have quality depth at near every position, and it feels like something that Buckeye fans have been clamoring for years. We have the money, we have the resources, oversign these classes, fill them up with as much talent as possible, take guys in the transfer portal, because why would you turn away a potential starter in the transfer portal when you could bump a guy that, you know, you thought may have been starting this year down to a backup, and you have that depth of, if someone goes down, you have a starter quality sitting behind them, and you don't have that massive drop-off of, oh, if we lose one guy, our season's over. And it feels like this is the first year where you want to see everyone rotate at damn near every position because there's so much depth on this team and there's so much talent that there aren't really any holes.
Yeah, I mean, you've said it, and I will say it again. This is the point where guys at Ohio State have not lost a position battle in I don't know how long. I can't name you the last one, but it was a very real conversation going into this season that Jermaine Matthews might take somebody's spot and end up starting. And from what we've seen, it's actually believable. So when they say like he's coming and he's a dude, and we had the conversation the other morning where it was like, is he up for even reps? Like, it's a very real conversation. So this is the standard. The other rooms are all chasing this cornerback room. I mean, this is the best position group. Even Brian Hartline's group is chasing this cornerback room at Ohio State. So this is standard. And like you said, we can't talk about them enough. And it's going to have a good conversation going forward. And I believe this will be the best secondary that we've seen. And it'll debate probably that 2019 secondary.
You touched on 2 guys that also spoke to the media on Friday, and they both had similar sentiments. Both of them had effusive praise for Jeremiah Smith. Jermaine Matthews said the guy's different, a mix of size, speed, and strength that haven't seen before. Hartline also talked about how hard of a worker that JJ is, being the first Iron Buckeye as a true freshman. What does that tell you about that work ethic that you're seeing out of Jeremiah the second that he gets on campus? We talked to Anand the other day, and he was telling us about, you know, some of the things that he heard about guys that are veterans on the team now, about how it took them a little bit longer to fully commit to the process at Ohio State. They wanted to, you know, be celebrities around town. They were having a little bit too much fun, weren't fully committed to the grind of the program. And those guys have fully committed themselves now. But you hear a guy like Jeremiah Smith steps on campus with loads of NIL, loads of notoriety, winning national championships in the 7-on-7, the number one prospect in the country, and the guy puts his head down and wins Iron Buckeye as a true freshman.
I'd say first of all, not a shout out to Jeremiah Smith, but a shout out to the people that he's been around and grew up around and has really put that pedigree in him. I know he's family with Geno Smith's family, so that too of people that's done it and gone pro. So it's a shout out to those guys, and that is what you want. We want these freak show athletes, but a lot of times people get away on their talent and they do stuff because like I don't have to work hard because I'm naturally gifted, which some people are lucky enough to have that. But when your work ethic meets that talent, that is when you find truly great players. And I understand, like, we know how hard Marv worked here, and he didn't play as a freshman, so it's not guaranteed. But Jeremiah Smith has come and said, "Look, it's guaranteed because I'm coming here, I'm gonna work, I'm gonna earn it." And as we see from the quotes and people talking about him, everybody is talking about Jeremiah Smith. Ryan Day can't even not talk about Jeremiah Smith. He doesn't want to let anything out of the Woody. So it's just a great sign and truly a shout out to him and his family.
Yeah, and I think it's a testament to the culture in that wide receiver room that seems like it's been a decade-long tradition that's been passed down from veterans all the way from the time of Zach Smith and Michael Thomas to the guys of Chris Olave and JSN and all of these guys and Marv passing down that work ethic in the Woody. You hear them talk in the Woody about how these wide receivers are constantly on the jugs machine, constantly working, and they see the guys around them putting in the work and what it takes to be great. And that's being passed down to the younger guys. And it's great to see someone come in and truly embrace it, especially someone with that level of notoriety. And he didn't come in with an entitled attitude of, hey, I don't have to work. I'm the number one wide receiver. You know, you guys, I'm your top wide receiver prospect that you guys have had in years, and just assume that he's just going to have a starting position. He came in here and worked his ass off. And it sounds like it's going to pay off this year based on the work that he's put in this offseason.
Yeah, no, 100%. And like you said, you want that to spread. I want to hear Mylan Graham. You can't get him off the jugs. I mean, we've had some guys that have been here for a while. We haven't seen him with Kojo and Jaden Ballard. I mean, you're just hoping that this culture just spreads around, and those guys are like, man, I'm not about to let this dude. I don't care where he's from, South SFE, South. I don't care. I'm about to get mine as well and work hard, and we're gonna do it as a team. So, the culture in the wide receiver room, I think, is a great place. I think it can be understated, and we haven't talked about him as much because we have a bunch of shiny new toys. But Emeka Egbuka coming in as the number one receiver, he's been around for a while. He's probably a little disappointed that he wasn't in the draft last year, and he wants to come back and prove everybody that, hey, I was hurt, or I had things going on. It's my time now, and I think it starts with him. And I think all the wide receivers really touched on Emeka Egbuka and how he's their mentor, he's their leader, along with being a extremely talented wide receiver. So I think it's credit to him as much as it is to anybody in this room.
Absolutely. A phrase that we've heard a lot around this team this offseason is iron sharpens iron, and Ryan Hartline touched on that, talking about the competitiveness between the cornerbacks and wide receivers and how chippy it's been. We've seen plenty of reports that it gets pretty chippy in practice between the wide receivers and the cornerbacks, and you love to hear that. Coach Walton even touched on it and said that Davison Igbinosun and JJ have been battling all camp, and both of them are working to get each other better every day. Do you think that people are discounting the type of work that is going on in the Woody right now as far as good on good, ones on 1v1s, when we're talking about our first team offense versus our first team defense? And do we think these guys are going to see better matchups this year than what they see in practice?
Oh no, and that's part of the selling point at Ohio State, and we know the Big Ten gets dinged a lot for its skill players. Obviously, a lot of skill players are coming from one by the other, so you got to go to Texas, you got to go to Cali, you got to go to Florida and get these guys. And it's harder if you're in the Big Ten and be like, hey, it'll be cold for a little bit, but come out here and hang out with us. So it's a little more difficult, but at Ohio State, it's not a problem. And yes, usually you'll see those are the best skill players you'll probably see until the playoffs if you run into a juggernaut of like a Texas or Georgia or whoever. So it cannot be discounted, and that is the thing you want to hear. These guys are battling out. Good Lord. Igbinosun. I couldn't get it out. Davis Igbinosun has had a lot of great returns on his offseason this year. And we talked about him last year bringing the attitude, and I think he deserves as much credit as anybody for that competitiveness and for that attitude that he brought last year, because we've seen it when in the Michigan game, he was a guy, like everybody, let's go, let's play. We didn't see that from a lot of guys. It felt like they were sleepwalking emotionally. And something for a great team to go is that confidence that we'll beat anybody, we'll go anywhere, we'll play anybody. And you haven't quite felt that vibe from this team in a couple of years. You felt like, yeah, we're good enough to win, but I don't know if Ohio State is really going to bring it. Like we talk about Georgia Ryan Day because we didn't know that was a Ryan Day we are going to get. And then he comes out and it's like, oh, yeah, like, let's go. And it feels like that attitude, starting with Davidson Igbinosun, has gone around these rooms. Now the wide receivers are like, nah, bro, we're highly rated too. You ain't about to punk us. Like, let's go. So I just feel like we're having, and this is a different conversation, but we're having a culture shift at Ohio State. And I'm starting to feel it a little bit. There's a lot of hype around this team, and it feels like the work is also with it. It's not just they're hyped up and like, oh, but guys are doing commercials and, they're hanging out. Like, you'll see them at the bar. Like, they got the NIL money. It really feels like guys are working. They're staying in the Woody overtime. And I do feel like this culture may have shifted to the next level.
You're talking about a change in culture. I want to take us back to a much darker time. The 2021 Michigan game. We had just signed our deal with Playback, and we were live for that game. And in the fourth quarter, we saw a guy stand on the bench and just start screaming and completely rally that Michigan team. And it went to commercial break, and we all just sat there on the stream and said, we're going to lose this game. We don't have anyone that's going to stand on the bench and rally this team. We don't have that energy. We don't have those type of personalities. But I think that's changed. I feel like when push comes to shove and it comes time for someone to motivate this team and rally this team and really fire this team up, I feel like we have more than enough guys that are really ready to step into that leadership position and rally this team when push comes to shove.
Yeah, and I think it's vastly important, and I hate giving Michigan their flowers, but I think that was a big part of their success. If they didn't recruit the best, I don't think Jim Harbaugh's recruiting rankings really didn't go up from the time Urban was here to the time Ryan Day was here. It's not like they got a new influx of talent. It was pretty much the same thing, but that dog mentality that those guys play with and that chip on their shoulder of, oh, we're under recruited, people don't value us, they don't think we could win the big game, yada, 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 finally caught up. And you saw what came from that. And I think at Ohio State, and I've heard Philly Brown talk about this, I've heard Garyon Conley talk about this. When you run into teams that are equally talented, like a Michigan will be, like a Georgia will be, that edge is the things that will win you games. And those things we didn't see from Ohio State that just was like, oh, that's that little something. We've talked about these little things that trip Ohio State up. I think that culture and that dog mentality is something that might be that missing piece of like, oh, like that was a thing. Just we're not losing. I don't care what happens. And we talked about it with Anand, just that Kirby will take guys just based on that culture that like, hey, it may be some craziness off the field that you got to deal with. Guys might be speeding, hitting 200, going to practice. But when it comes time on the field, that dog mentality shows, and that's just the culture. And we've seen that, and I talk about recruitment. This guy didn't really work out, but Singleton that committed from Florida a couple years ago, and he came to Ohio State for a visit, long time commit, and he said, the culture up here is just different than it was in Georgia, and he ended up going to Georgia, and that may be some of the things he talk. Like, I don't know this. This is just me. I throw it out there. That may be some of the things he talk about. That's like that feeling of, yeah, like I may not be a scholar, and a gentleman, but when it's time to really, go out and ball out and be around that culture of guys who just refuse to lose, he may have felt that more at a different program. That's just me. I don't know if
maybe he underestimated his fit with the Georgia culture because he now plays for Arkansas. So I don't know how much his calculation was correct as far as having that dog in him because he don't got that Georgia dog in him anymore. He's a Razorback. So
it didn't work out for him. It was too much. He was like,
too much dog. He didn't have enough in him. But no, it was undeniable. Those Michigan teams of the past 3 years, Ohio State, it felt like they came in expecting to win, and Michigan came in knowing that they were going to win, and it may have had something to do with signs, but we won't even get into that. They had a confidence, regardless of where it came from, they had a confidence and a belief that they could come in and beat our ass, and they did it for 3 straight years. And I feel like this Buckeye team has the mentality that they know that they can go in and beat any team that they play this year, and I'm excited to see that confidence because maybe in years past, it may have felt like bravado, and it was like they said it because it was the right thing to say. I feel like this team truly believes they are the best team in the country right now.
Yeah, and that can't be understated.
What was that?
I was like, yeah, and that can't be understated.
No, not at all. Sorry, I got distracted by the chat. I saw our guy Charles Green said he got in here a little late. Man, we missed you. Always can catch the replay on podcast or in the community on Twitter and of course on YouTube. Make sure you guys are subscribed. So if you missed the show or you joined a little late, like our guy Charles, that you can catch the show. A couple other notes that I wanted to get to before we get out of here. Was everyone mentioning Jeremiah Smith? Does it feel like we're sleeping on the other wideouts? Because it feels like it's getting to the point, and I feel like I've been like the leader of this charge of the Jeremiah Smith is the best wide receiver in college football before he catches a pass. But it feels like it's getting to the point where like we're not even asking about guys like Carnell Tate anymore. Someone that, I mean, before Jeremiah Smith ever stepped a foot on campus, they were talking about that Carnell Tate looked better than Marv did as a true freshman. So are we forgetting about the depth of that wide receiver room? And is it going to surprise people when everybody's looking for 4 out there on the field and we see a bunch of other guys going crazy?
I think we've come to expect that with the first 4. We obviously know Carnell Tate. We've heard the hype about him for 2 years now. We've heard about Brandon Ennis. We're finally getting to see. I mean, he performed as well as he could last year based on opportunities. 1 catch, 1 touchdown, 70 yards. I don't know if he could play any better than he did. But I think we've come to know those guys, and we expect from this first 4 to really all go ball out. I think it's in those next 2 positions that we're not really getting clarity on, and we don't know what's coming from in wide receiver 5 and 6. So that is something I would like to hear more. I mean, obviously we know Jeremiah Smith is a generational wide receiver based on his ranking, his talent. So he will get talked about, and we expect that. But I would like to hear from the media a little more about guys Bryson Rogers, Jaden Ballard, Kodra Aintree, just more going in, because that really solidifies that room and carries the back end. So I don't think we're overhyping Jeremiah Smith, and I think we're where we should be on this first 4. I think these next 2 to 3 is where a little focus is being left out, but we don't know Brian Harline to rotate. So that may be why we only hear about the first 4, but I am hoping we hear a little more about the next 2.
Another guy that feels like he's getting forgotten a bit is Jordan Hancock. You hear a lot about the guys on the outside, but the return of Jordan Hancock, as Q will tell you, that was a NFL player last year, and he's back in college. He should have went to the NFL, according to Q. And it feels like he's flying under the radar because it's not much of a question. We know what this guy's going to bring. And he talked about the what it meant to bring BIA back. He said it means everything that it's back. It means everything to the school. We talked about it so many times, the revival of BIA. Seeing it happen and come to fruition is crazy, but we knew it would come back to the standard. Do you think the return of these 3 guys is exactly what the Buckeyes needed as far as the elevation of this room? Because it gives the young guys, the Jermaine Matthews, the Aaron Scotts, the Bryce West, the Calvin Simpson Hunts, and 1 more year to develop before they're called upon to step into this role. And I feel like these guys are truly setting the standard, showing them how to work and be great Buckeyes, show them what it takes to develop here in this room. We've seen every single one of these guys in the cornerback room has taken different paths to the field. You see a guy like Denzel Burke, who was called on early on in his career. You saw Davison Igbinosun, who transferred in. You see other guys like Jermaine Matthews, who's gotten playing time and performed when he's gotten playing time, but still waiting his turn. Is BIA officially back, and do you credit these 3 guys who are going to be the starting corners as being a huge part in it returning?
Yeah, I think BIA was back last year, and that secondary played really well. And shout out to the safeties as well. They played really good ball with Josh Proctor and Lathan Ransom. I think it's more of a testament to this room that if Denzel Burke had gone pro, and if Jordan Hancock had gone pro and they weren't on this roster this season, that we would still look at BIA and say, we're going to be just fine with Jermaine Matthews and Calvin Simpson Hunt stepping right in that role. Now they're back, so all happy, and competition, I'm sure, is even better. But I think that is the bigger testament to where this room is at, that even if those guys had left, we would not be worried about the corner position. I want to get your take on that.
No, I agree. You know how I feel about Jermaine Matthews. I always say that Jermaine Matthews is the best corner in the country, and he's our 3rd corner. Like, I have all the belief in Jermaine in the world. That was probably one of the biggest steals in recruiting that the Buckeyes will look back on. Jermaine was 30 days away from committing to what seemed to be Cincinnati, comes and camps at Ohio State, earns an offer, and we're talking about this guy, being a part of the resurgence of BIA and carrying that torch going forward. So a huge recruiting win for the Buckeyes. I want to circle back to Jordan Hancock, though. Our guy Goj, we got 200 people in the chat, by the way. If you're in here listening, make sure you throw a like on the video, retweet. If you're not subscribed to the channel, make sure you subscribe. We are here live every weekday at 8 a.m. for the Buckeye Roast. We appreciate you guys tuning in. But I wanted to get back to Jordan Hancock. Our guy Goj, I haven't seen him in the chat this morning, but he said the other day that Jordan Hancock will lead this team in interceptions this year. I want to get your opinion. Do you agree with that? And I set an over-under at 3.5 picks for Jordan Hancock. So before you answer the over-under, let me know who you think is going to lead this team in interceptions this year, and then let me know your over-under for interceptions for Jordan Hancock.
Ooh, so lead the team in interceptions. I'm going to go with not a corner, but I'm going to go with Caleb Downs. I think him playing that free safety role and being able to roam around a little bit is going to create havoc back there. So I think he will get a lot of opportunities to be that second defender that, where did he come from? we didn't see him because he wasn't man on, and we'll get a lot of picks. So I would say he will lead the team. As far as the over-under on Jordan Hancock, I think that's a really good over-under. I think he might be just around 3. But I also think that this team will share, and a lot of guys in the cornerback room will at least have a couple this season. I think that was the thing Jim Knowles emphasized last year was we did everything right except create turnovers, and the place you'll probably get the most turnovers is the secondary because they're getting the most opportunity to swipe at the ball. So I will take the under, but I think he'll be right at 3. But like I said, Jordan Hancock's a pro. I might have been the first one on the Jordan Hancock bandwagon, so I got the pass. Jordan sent me some merch, so I think he will continue to ball out this season. I'll rock that 7 jersey proudly.
You're gonna see Q sitting at Jordan Hancock's table, and Q's gonna be talking his ear off. His draft team's gonna be calling him, and he's gonna be in his ear like, "I told you this should have been last year."
Me and Ryan Day suited up at the draft party.
Yeah, before we get out of here, I want to talk about the scrimmage a little bit as much as we can because, I mean, it seems like it's fucking Fort Knox in the Woody right now, man. Ryan Day's telling the players, you better not leak shit to the media or it's your ass. And the media seems to be struggling because I haven't seen shit about this scrimmage, Q. Have you seen anything?
Take it with a grain of salt. I've heard a little, and I don't know how true or not true this is.
From a little birdie, definitely not from inside the Woody.
Yeah, but I did hear a little bit about the quarterback battle. And that's really all I've heard was about the quarterbacks and how they performed. And I heard it was a good competition. I heard it was a battle back and forth. I heard Devin balled out a bit. I heard Will was right with him. I think I heard Will had a touchdown and Devin had 2 in the scrimmage, and both were pretty efficient. I didn't hear about really any turnovers. So it's and also too, I heard, this was a thing that Ryan Day didn't grade anybody out as a champion from the scrimmage. So that tells you it's a pretty even deadlock. So I am now wondering, from what I heard, if that is true, and I'll say it with a grain of salt, if it is true, I am wondering if we might have a little wait, because I know we're really expecting Ryan Day to name a quarterback. I wonder if that gives it a little bit of a pause or if it's just business as usual. I don't know if it will. I'm not saying it will. No, not go that far. I'm not buying today. So I'm not buying any stock. I'm saving those Gabe Power sellings. I still got a little money left. So
oh my God. You got me ready to sell my Gabe Power stock because bro just bought a new house after selling his Gabe Power stock.
I didn't know how much it was worth. But yeah, so it seemed like solid performances from both. So maybe it'll be a little bit of a wait, but I haven't heard much out of scrimmage. It has been Fort Knox.
Yeah, I mean, a little birdie dropped a few gems, and like you said, with a grain of salt, especially with how tight-lipped they have been with the information coming out of the Woody. It seemed like the offense had a day yesterday. It was described as you could tell that there was a quarterback battle going on. Both guys seemed to have an urgency and a will to score. It seemed like Chip Kelly had Jim Knowles in a bit of a blender in the game yesterday, which is honestly something that I love to hear because you know that Jim Knowles can really dial it up and what he's been able to do over the years. And to see that Chip Kelly being challenged by a defensive mind like that and really getting those reps in is great to hear. Hearing that Devin isn't giving up on the fight and making this a battle and making this a decision for Ryan Day. And if Ryan Day makes a decision, honestly, today or in a week or so, it's good to know that these guys are competing. No one's just giving up on this battle, and they're really challenging this defense. And I feel like this level of competition, not only at quarterback, but just the overall competitive attitude around the Woody right now is going to pay dividends this season.
Yeah, I would agree with that 100%. It sounds like good things, and that is when we get probably closer to season and the game starts. You ask me, what am I looking for? Probably game one. I am looking for this marriage of Ryan Day and Chip Kelly as far as the offense, and just to hear that the offense had a day and they were giving Jim Knowles shambles is a good thing because we know we have maybe the best defense in the country. So that is music to my ears.
Yeah, man, and it definitely seems like Ryan Day has a little bit of paranoia about the leaks in the Woody.
Yeah, I love this joke. It was like last year when Maya Williams, he actually ended up with like an ACL tear, and he was week to week as far as if he was going to play. Like, oh, come on, man! Like you're doing too much.
Absolutely. So, yeah, man, it's good to hear that the scrimmage seemed productive. It seemed like they were really battling out there. It'll be interesting to say what Ryan Day has to say about the scrimmage today. I'm pretty sure he talks to the media this afternoon. Maybe we'll have a surprise reaction if there's some sort of announcement. I don't know what they would announce this early in camp, but if there's an announcement, maybe we'll pop up live for an extra show, maybe today, maybe I don't know, no promises. But keep an eye out. Make sure that you're subscribed. Make sure you're a part of the community. Make sure you follow us on Twitter. So if we do have a surprise show, if there are any announcements, maybe we'll be live again today. But that's all I really have today. About 7 minutes before I got to start my workday, Q. You got anything before we get out of here?
Just huge shout out to the chat. I see Emily, T Spivvy. I saw Travis in there. Oh my God, Johnny holding it down for the team up north.
Yeah, Johnny be in the paint for
He's in the
Michigan
paint,
every
bro.
morning, like by himself with just a sword, battling 200 Buckeyes in the chat, man.
Sure.
We
Johnny,
appreciate you standing
yeah,
strong and supporting the show.
Back up in there, man. We don't hate the Michigan fans until we do. So
Who doesn't? I like Johnny. The rest of them, man.
You're cool right now. Get some backup in there, man. But no, man, shout out to everybody in the chat showing up. I also seen AMO. It's an automotive guy in the chat. I think he said he saw us from minutes and came over, started watching. So shout out to him as a new guy watching. Like I said, everybody go grab a friend. We're here every morning at 8 a.m. or 5 a.m. for some people, not counting numbers. But we be in here. So appreciate y'all tuning in and hope it helps you wake up in the morning, get ready for work.
Yeah, man, I love doing this show so much. I wake up 3 hours before Q every morning to bring you guys this show. No, yesterday me and Q were talking. He's like, bro, I got to figure out this sleep schedule. I'm going to bed at midnight and waking up 4 to do this show. Like, it's not working. We got to figure something out. So, man, shouts out to Q for waking up every morning and doing this show with us, and appreciate him sacrificing his sleep for 5 months during the year to bring you all the Buckeye content weekdays at 8 a.m. But I'm your boy, Ron James. That's Q. Q, let the people know where they could find you before we get out of here.
Yeah, man, I'm not hard to find. Maybe next year I'll be on the roast in the evening. But
the evening roast.
There we go. Evening roast.
For the late night coffee drinkers.
Man, I am not hard to find. City Boy Quentin on Twitter. You hit me up there. Just DM me. If you've hit me, give me a follow, and I haven't seen it, just DM me. I'll definitely follow back. We can talk some ball because I don't be on Twitter too much, but I dabble in there. So follow me and we'll talk some ball. Flynet Johnson on Instagram, also on TikTok, and Minor League Films. If you like movies, got reviews coming today. So that will be up here on YouTube. Not hard to find. Ron, where can people find you?
If you want to find me, you can find me on Twitter. It's 2_TES. It's 2 T's. You can find me here weekdays at 8 a.m. with my guy Q for the Buckeye Roast. You can find us Sundays with our guy Cam and Mike for Buckeye BS. We had quite the episode yesterday. So if you want to tune into that and see lots of energy around the Buckeyes and some spirited conversation, check out Buckeye BS yesterday if you missed that. And yeah, make sure that you like, comment, subscribe. If you're watching us on Twitter, throw a like, a retweet on that. If you see us in the community, throw a like. And if you're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, any of those, even if you watch the show on YouTube, go ahead and follow the show on there. It helps us in the algorithm. Even if you're not listening on there, it helps us get pushed to people that do listen on the audio side. So we're making an effort to grow that. So if you could help us out there, drop a review, we appreciate that. And shout out to the 200 people that decided to tune in this morning with us. Q, what do you have before we get out of here?
Shout out to Dan. If you know, you know.
Don't forget if you know, you know.
And shout out and go watch his podcast as well. I'll give my guy Dan a shout out. I love Dan.
Him and Chad do a great podcast, The Best Damn Pod. So if you have a chance to check that out, also check out our guy Dan. We got to get him on the show here soon.
Yeah, hit my line, man. I'll show up on the pod, man. Hit me up.
yeah. We got to do a home and home with.
Do it in the afternoon. I'll be there.
Yeah.
Might leave for real.
Definitely. We got to get a home and home with The Best Damn Pod with our guys, Dan and Chad. So big shout out to those guys. And yeah, man, go Bucks and OH.
Ayo.
Mama.